Because I just can't seem to get enough of Skilcraft lately, let's look today at a pair of contemporary Skilcraft mechanical pencils. Hello everyone. The journey through Skilcraft writing implements continues here in a special edition of Moving About and Manipulating Objects. This was the pen that started the Skilcraft investigation for me. And every time I come across a new Skilcraft product, it opens up another rabbit hole for me to travel down. And I'm learning slowly as I go. The labyrinth of government procurement regulations and government suppliers is mysterious and uncharted territory, for me at least. So this is the famed U.S. government Skilcraft retractable pen, covered in depth in a previous video. So seek that out if you have interest in that. But I'm more of a pencil guy. So we're looking at a pair of Skilcraft pencils that I came upon in my search for all things Skilcraft. Previously on this channel, I reviewed another Skilcraft branded pencil. Skilcraft is a trademark of National Industries for the Blind, as I covered in a previous video. So the government has contracted with this, I guess, a chain of companies, all manufacturing or assembling products under the Skilcraft name, and they employ largely Americans who have a visual impairment or are blind, and they have factory in North Carolina as well as one, I believe, in Wisconsin. There may be others, and as I discover more about Skilcraft, I'll probably keep bringing videos about it because it's an interesting subject for me. So we covered this dual action pencil and discovered that it is a copy or a clone or closely related to another Papermate product or a Sanford logo. But also I discovered on Twitter, some helpful Japanese mutuals on Twitter let me know that there is a Pilot equivalent also, and I forget what that was called. I'll try to put it in the notes if I can find it. But this is not the subject of today's video, other than to say dual action refers to the fact that there is a twist advance for the eraser, very clever design, and a click advance for the graphite. Very similar in operation to the twist erase, Pentel twist erase. So we'll perhaps return to that for comparison. The two pencils for today's video are both branded Skilcraft, and for one of them I was able to locate a box that gives us some information about its manufacture. Assembled in the USA by San Antonio Lighthouse for the Blind, San Antonio, Texas. So there's another place where Skilcraft is manufacturing, or at the very least assembling, products. Components made in Japan. Can you see that? Components made in Japan. Skilcraft is a registered trademark owned and licensed by National Industries for the Blind. So assembled in Texas of components made in Japan. I did send out a query to those on Twitter who might, or X I suppose, who may know about such things, whether there is a Japanese look-alike. In other words, are these parts made for a Japanese pencil currently being manufactured that I may want to compare it with, but no hits yet. So it's a curious pencil. First of all, 1.1 millimeter, the same size of graphite lead, as it were, as was used in these Scripto-made U.S. government, sometimes labeled Skilcraft, sometimes just labeled U.S. government, and sometimes with Skilcraft on the clip, sometimes with Scripto, as we see on this example. But it is in all ways a Scripto. It's very familiar to those who have used Scripto mechanical pencils. They use a 1.1 millimeter or a 0.046 inch lead. So there must be some governmental reason why that is a useful diameter of lead for its durability. Here they're broadcasting the fact that it's a bold point, so the larger, the more bold mark, I suppose, that you get from a 1.1 millimeter or a larger lead size. Much bigger than the standard preference for today's writer, which would be probably a 0.7 or 0.5. So a quite thick lead. It is a click advance, and can you hear that click? There's very little play at all. Very precise, I guess what you'd expect from Japanese manufacturing, Japanese engineering. It is somewhat round-bodied, but it flattens out here on the side that has the clip. The clip is not movable. It's permanently attached in that position because of the shape of the barrel. Has a included eraser that's a good size, larger than your standard mechanical pencil eraser, certainly. Has a bit of chrome there at the tip, and you can see that thick lead when compared with the Scripto's lead. Well, they're worn differently, but it is the same diameter. I've always been a fan of Scriptos. I think the twist mechanism is very simple and fail-safe, and the 1.1 is a good diameter of lead for me. What else about this? The body is plastic. It's not one that is easily taken apart, so you would think that government issue, field stripping it would be a plus. That's something that you would think would be built into the contract for this sort of thing, but even the end doesn't come off. To replace the leads, you just pull out the eraser. I guess that's pretty standard for a lot of mechanical pencils. And these come with 2 additional leads, different than the Scripto, which does not have a reservoir for additional refills. So it doesn't come apart anywhere on the pencil, apart from you can open it up here. So once it's assembled, it's done. You can continue to replace the leads, but you don't take it apart to clear a jam or something, so I can't see the mechanism inside. Japanese engineering, I'm not concerned about the durability of the mechanism, but just find that curious. So it's somewhat round here, tapers to a roughly triangle shape with grips molded into the plastic at the end. Comfortable to use. Let's compare the clicking sound of the two, and maybe you can get a sense for what that's like. They probably don't sound that different on the recording, but in person, the feel of it and the sound, extremely precise, but it feels like you're doing some real work deep in there. What else? Notice on the dual action, it has a retractable lead sleeve. A bit of chrome there that cradles the lead, retracts so you don't jab yourself in the leg or in the torso when you're carrying it in your pocket. It's a clever bit of engineering, and the eraser, as I said, twists out. But this is all you get as far as the eraser. I'm sure the contract would be such that there are replacement erasers available. We'll return to that in a second. Another similar pencil, similar in that it has a larger than average lead size. This one you can still buy new through various distributors, I think even Amazon, but distributors that sell for National Industries for the blind. You're not going to find it at your average Staples or Walmart or anything like that. neither these. In fact, I'm not certain they're still making this mechanical pencil. They're making pens in this style with the green, and you see the name is Biorite. And a brief internet study of it tells me they're using plant-based plastics or some type of resin that's a plant-based material to make this. That's not a big selling point for me, but it may be for some. I think it's probably kind of like swapping out plastic bags for paper bags at the grocery. It's kind of a wash either way in terms of damage to the created world. Can't imagine what type of torture you have to put a plant through to get it to secrete a plastic resin, but that's neither here nor there. Other than that, emblazoned on it, Biorite, which, you know, it's not a selling point that's going to attract me, may be for some. It feels like a normal plastic to me. It's a very light pencil. This one is more take-apartable. And let's do that. If you notice, before we get to that, 1.3 millimeter. We see the mechanism in there. You can see the clutch. It does not appear to be brass, at least the part that's visible. Some type of metal, but not brass. I don't think it's a plastic clutch, so I'm not sure what metal they're using there. But everything else is plastic, and it also has a grip. I don't mind it so much. I wish it didn't have that. I wish it was just all this material. But this is very slippery. Whatever resin or plastic this plant secreted is quite slippery. So I guess I see the need for it. I'm glad it's not larger than the diameter of the pen, or at least not noticeably. That kind of bugs me when the grip is bigger than the pen's or the pencil's diameter. We've got Skilcraft on the clip. It's a plastic clip that's molded as part of the cap here. And didn't say it, but Skilcraft on the clip there. This one, very similar to the dual action in most respects. It has a twist advance on the eraser, although the eraser is slightly smaller in diameter. Let's compare those with a Pentel click eraser. The dual action is very similar. I wonder if you could swap those out. Similar to the Pentel click eraser. The Biorite here is smaller, but still the fact that it's bigger than a standard mechanical pencil eraser and extendable and replaceable, presumably, that's a selling point. Unlike the dual action, it doesn't fully retract in, which maybe these didn't either when they were new. Maybe it's the size is such that a little bit would be remaining out when it's new. This one is a new pencil, but only goes in that far. So this bright, vivid green with black cap and a black grip. Okay, so we covered the eraser coming out. Look at that seems unnecessary for a lead that big, a 1.3. You're not going to stab yourself with a 1.3 millimeter, I wouldn't think, but it has a retractable lead sleeve. It's a short one, but it pops out when you first activate the click. Interesting, and this has a very silent click action. Far less satisfying than the all business Boldpoint. Oh, let's compare the lead size. It's hard to tell the difference on this camera between a 1.3 and a 1.1, but it is a slightly thicker graphite. Breaking in here for a moment because there's one thing I forgot to demonstrate, and that is the entire mechanism of the cap comes off. So the twist advance eraser, that whole section comes off, and that is how you replace the lead. And these, like the Boldpoint, come with two refills, and that gives you a sense of how much lead it is able to hold. With a soft graphite, that ends up being not very much. So let me see if I can replace those. Nope. I missed the tube. All right. Clips back together easily. There you go. As I said, I don't know that they're still manufacturing these, although they are making ballpoint pens in this Biorite, same color scheme, black with this vivid green. Not come across any of those in my day-to-day, so I haven't tried them. Maybe for a future video if I'm lucky enough to come across one. But this is rather neat. If it weren't for the kind of nod to quasi-environmentalism, which I can take or leave, I suppose, and it weren't for the grip, this would be a nearly perfect pencil. I like a thicker lead, makes a bolder line. That's good for my failing eyes. And I don't snap the graphite as frequently. But I guess if I had the choice between the two of these, if this one came in all black, that would be an easy choice. But still, I think I like the Biorite a little better. Wouldn't be a pencil review without a test of the graphite, even though you can obviously swap out for whatever you like. Before I do that, though, I did want to compare. This is the Write in the Rain, actually the Nick Pro version, but Write in the Rain's Model 13 mechanical pencil is a much heavier pencil than this. Does heavier mean more durable? You know, when you drop it, it seems like the extra mass here might lend itself more towards breakage. I'm not sure. Is it more durable because it's mostly metal and has a thicker plastic here? Couldn't say, but they both have a 1.3. So if 1.3 is your thing, for the added durability of the graphite, and you don't necessarily want the extra weight of the Write in the Rain or the Nick Pro, this might be an option for you if you can find them. Okay, let's get a piece of paper and just try it out. And the Boldpoint. Sorry for the camera jiggling there. Thinking that's not an HB graphite in either of these. Maybe they're using the same graphite supplier for both. The thicker graphite can fool you about their darkness just because of how bold the point is, but that feels a little softer to me than an HB. That might be a B. Something along those lines. There you go. We continue on the Skilcraft rabbit hole. The Skilcraft Boldpoint 1.1 still being made. You can still get those as far as I know. Unsure whether these are still being manufactured or where they're being manufactured or where the components are being made. Still a mystery. As I find out more, I'll probably continue to make these Skilcraft videos because I think it's a neat rabbit hole to go down. One more jostle of the camera just for good times. Thanks for watching this video. Hope to see you here again next time.